Welcome to Crime Capsule Daily. I'm Amanda Lamb, and this is my co host, Chelsea Donovan. And we're hopping back on because there have been so many developments in the search for Nancy Guthrie. Very importantly, this afternoon, investigators released some photos. Talk about that, Chelsea.
Yeah, this came really at what probably Savannah described best yesterday as a desperate hour. I mean, we're on day 10 and we've got nothing. Finally, the FBI has released video and those still screenshots of what appears to be someone walking at the door. He's got a gun, or he or she, in their waistband, like a flashlight kind of in the mouth. Um, you know, dark colored jacket, backpack, light colored pants, look like a light colored shoe, uh, fully masked, obviously. And it's just super interesting because this said person sort of walks back after they see the camera, which is odd, and looks like they pick up like a piece of brush or bush to try to cover up the camera, as if they didn't know that they were there. That's another big question. But yeah, I mean, I think that this someone has to know something. Maybe they recognize that backpack or the coat or the eyes, something, because
Yeah,
the
I mean, it's
eyes are
very,
very clear.
very specific. And again, the clothing, the posture, everything about those photos, if you know that person, you're probably going to be able to figure it out. It also kind of, I guess, solidifies that this is absolutely a kidnapping. I mean, there's been so many questions all along about what this was. And now having these photos, why do you think it took them so long to get this from the Nest company? I guess that's where they got those photos.
Yeah, I mean, I guess she doesn't have the record mode on, but obviously there's something that goes back to the cloud. I don't know a thing about technology when it comes to that, but they kept describing, they had to go through a back end to get this. You know, and I think, as I told you earlier before we jumped on the podcast, that if there is video of this person, there has to be video of Nancy, whether it's coming from this same camera, or if it's coming from one of the two mounted cameras that they found. You would think that now they also have confirmation that she was taken from the home. I understand what you said about it being a kidnapping, but we also don't know if she could potentially have been harmed inside and then her body taken out of there.
No,
It's so
absolutely
much
not. I mean,
speculation.
yeah, you can see a gun in the photos and also the video. The person has a gun. And so you can only imagine that they use that to frighten her and to, take her out of that house. Um, and I mean, this is like the first real definitive piece of evidence that the authorities are sharing with the public. And my guess is that they're sharing it because they don't know who's in that picture, right? And they're hoping
Right.
somebody will.
Especially since they've been looking for surveillance video from the nearby gas stations. We know the FBI have been in there seeing, hey, did you see a suspicious vehicle at 2 o'clock in the morning? There could only be so many people. Or did they leave on foot? One of the things when you're looking at the FOIA camera here, you can't see a vehicle. It's super, super dark. I see some street lights far away, but we don't know how this perpetrator got to the scene or even how they left. So that's obviously a big question. Also, as I
No,
told you earlier on the phone, the blood droplets, that one media outlet went up to the porch and they saw the droplets of blood, almost indicative with like a nosebleed. My first thought was that person picks up a thorny piece of shrubbery, puts it in their gloved hands, and then walks up to the camera. How do we know that those blood droplets aren't from the perpetrator himself?
right. And I mean, they've said that the DNA that they found was from her, but they haven't identified where that DNA came from. In other words, is it from that blood? Is it from blood inside the home? And it appears that just one person. I mean, that's, if you're looking just at what they've released right now, it appears to be just one person. And of course, we don't know if this is somebody known to the family, somebody who worked with the family, somebody who was close to the family, or somebody who was hired, right? I mean, that's a possibility.
Yeah, because I'm watching it again as we're talking on the pod, and as you watch the video that the FBI put out, the person that's walking up into the foyer is not doing it with any sense of urgency. As they're just nonchalantly walking up the one step, then they're just sauntering to the door. It's like almost like they knew where they were. But you would think if this was a kidnapping, this would be swift actions, and I'm seeing a slow clip walking up to
Right.
the door.
And I
I
mean,
found
this
that
is
odd.
not, yeah, this is not anything that nothing has moved quickly, right? In this whole situation, which is the complete opposite of what you would think if you are a person who wants to kidnap somebody and get money. You would do this as quickly as possible. And yet we're on like what, day 10, something like that now. We're into the
Day
second
10.
week. Yeah, we're into the second week. Um, let's back up a little and talk about some of the other things that have been going on. So, there have been several more searches. They have not released the home as they did before. The home is now under guard. I know over the weekend they searched the backyard and they went in what looked to be like manholes into a sewer system potentially with long sticks, and they
Yeah.
were digging around in there for quite a while. They also searched again the sister's home, Annie's home, the one she shares with her husband, Tommaso. And so, it's like they're really looking for other pieces of evidence, I guess, to figure out what's happening here.
I think you could take the search at Annie and Tommaso's home two ways, right? From what NBC says, it was a consensual search. They didn't have a search warrant. They haven't been able to find a search warrant. So, naturally, in any part of the investigation, you're going to go search the home of the people that last saw her, right? We understand that Tommaso dropped her off. She took an Uber over to Annie's and played some games. You mentioned the probe in the backyard, what appeared to me look like a septic tank. And that to me signaled, after Savannah's dire message, which was cryptic, and we'll get into that in a minute, that, naturally they're just probing for a body to see if something's, been dumped down in there. One other piece of news that I did want to mention, because there's been so much media speculation on this, and now I think it's come to a head, is that Nancy Guthrie hadn't attended church services since 2020. So the fact that a lot of people were saying, oh, she didn't show up at church. Now we have some clarity on that also from NBC, which was she actually had been going for the past 6 years to a friend's house to watch a live stream. And so a friend called because she didn't arrive at the house. So I just want to put that to bed because there's been a lot of speculation on
Yeah,
that. And that kind of is more helpful now to get some clarity.
I think you're right. I think what's happening now too is there is so much chatter, right? I mean, you can't log on to your social media accounts and not see somebody talking about this. And there's so much chatter because there's been no developments and because people are just hanging on every single detail about this case. And, I saw somebody mention this the other day. They said, it's the one thing Americans can agree on right now is that we all want to see Nancy Guthrie found and be okay because we can all relate to this. We're thinking about our own mothers, our own grandmothers. And it's kind of this coalescing thing in a very weird way, but in a way that, I mean, I was shocked. I watched the Today Show today and I just kept thinking, can you imagine having to work and be on TV when your colleague is going through something like this?
Yeah. So let's go backwards a bit to catch folks up on Saturday night when
Yeah.
Savannah and her brother and sister released what was really a gut wrenching, sort of cryptic video. They used a lot of different words, little language like, we understand. We want her, we want to celebrate with her. We're not going to have peace until we do so. It's very valuable to us. And then, of course, ending with the three words, we will pay. I left that and I've watched it a million times thinking that when she says we understand, it could signify that the mother is dead and that the only thing that's going to bring them peace and something that's valuable to them is her body. That's how I left it. I think you were in agreement
Yeah.
with that. But
I
then
totally yeah, that's totally how I saw it. Sadness, desperation, resignation that this is not gonna end well. We think we know what the ending is, and please, we just want our mother returned in any way. And, that plays into whether or not these ransom notes, these alleged ransom notes have been true, have been real, have been accurate, or are they just the work of scammers? And because they were not getting any direct communication with the kidnapper slash kidnappers. Um, they didn't have anything to go on except for these reports from the media that these ransom notes have been out there. So it was almost like, okay, we're just going to throw this out there and see what happens.
yeah, and I mean, as I told you too on the phone, like in my opinion, ransoms move really quickly, right? They want the money and then they want to get the hell out of Dodge. You don't
Right.
continue this ransom stuff into day 9 and ask, the family from what media outlets have reported $6 million. You'd want to do that quickly and earlier on. It also makes her video from yesterday where she's a little bit more coherent. She's got makeup on. She looks like she's slept even more bizarre, because it's like, okay, they were crying in desperation, and this last video sort of acknowledging the ransom note or the alleged ransom note. And then it's like, hey guys, like, we're not giving up. We need your prayers. Help, help, help. We're in a desperate hour.
Yeah. And I mean, again, we've seen her for the past few days. No makeup, tearful, just looked like she hadn't slept, and then this was a dramatic turn yesterday, makeup pulled together, kind of the anchor, right, that we're all used to watching on the Today Show, really composed, really articulate, and asking for the public's help, which a lot of people have assessed that and said, well, if they were talking to the kidnappers or they had some connection with the kidnappers, she wouldn't be coming out and making that video. But I would say the converse is true as well. If they were talking to the kidnappers and the kidnappers said, you better not, say we're talking to you, this would be a way to throw everybody off the trail. I think that we keep going back to these notes and trying to figure out if they're real or not. And one of the things they were talking about was this 5 o'clock deadline on Monday, where Bitcoin, $6 million worth, what was supposed to be transferred into an account. And apparently, if you have the number of the Bitcoin account, you can look it up to see if the money is there.
And it
And
wasn't.
TMZ reported that the money was not there. That was from the first note. Obviously, we don't know what was in the second note because the local TV station never released all of the details from that note. So, could there have been another Bitcoin account? I mean, sure, there definitely could have. But the reality is that it's a big guessing game right now that nobody really knows what's going on. Now, we do understand that the sheriff might be making another statement today. Is that what you're hearing?
Yeah, yeah. So I understand, obviously it would make sense if they wanted to hold a press conference after these photos and these videos came out to answer any questions or to give, more information. That remains to be seen. What is it? It's Tuesday at 3 o'clock Eastern time. So who knows? Um, I think what you said holds a lot of weight because it's like with her video, two things can be true at the same time. We don't know what she knows. We don't know, there's so much that they've probably seen and heard and know that we don't, and we're all, obviously armchair detectives and trying to figure it out. What I do find compelling is that the FBI did write in their tweet last night that they were not aware of any communication from the family, and the alleged kidnapper, which was kind of like, oh, okay. That
I
that
thought it
kind
was
of
interesting.
stunned me a minute.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting too that all of the other videos have had the whole family, and this video was just Savannah. And, I mean, obviously, she has a huge platform, right? Millions of people watch her every single morning and feel like they know her. And I think that was part of that plea, which was, hey, you know me. You know, I come into your kitchen, your living room every morning, and I need help. And I'm coming out and asking for that now.
Yeah.
So kind of a just a shift, if you will, in the tone, the appearance. You know, and I'm no obviously expert on kidnapping, although I have covered some high profile cases. Does this video and these pictures strike you as somebody who is a highly skilled criminal?
No, because as I have it up again, they're sauntering to the door and they're looking at the ground, no sense of urgency, especially not knowing that the cameras were there. You'd think if it was someone close to the family or someone hired by the family, they would say, hey, you're going to encounter a doorbell camera when you get there, figure it out. And it just seems like, oh, this person goes and plucks a piece of bush and puts it out in front of that. That seems odd. Um, Going back to the features of the video, I see like what appears to be, longer eyelashes or even sort of eyeliner on the face. What could be facial hair coming out of the mouth area, but who knows? It could be painted on. We talked in brief. Ashley Banfield went out on a limb, had a source close to the investigation earlier this week that said the brother-in-law is going to be the prime suspect. I mean, who knows if it's him? I don't know. There's just no way to know. But like you said, it could be a home health care nurse. It could be a gardener. It could be the pool guy, the
Right.
landscaper.
Anybody that has a connection to that home and that family could be somebody that knew the details of how to get in the house, what kind of cameras or security they were going to encounter, knew that she would be alone, you know, I think that it's more than likely somebody that if it's not in the family, somebody close to the family. And Ashley Banfield has been interviewed multiple times about her source and about her beliefs, and been steadfast on that. And, obviously we can't go out and accuse anybody of something like this, but I do think that investigators always, always, always look close to the victim and then they move out. And a stranger abduction is just super rare.
Yeah.
It happens, but it's really rare.
My other question in watching the video as the suspect approaches is, from what I've been able to glean, is that there's been no forced entry into the house. How did they get in? That's the thing, right? Did the person come in with a key in his hand? Was there a keypad at the door? Again, it just doesn't, you don't see a sense of urgency. So that's my big
Mm-mm.
question, since they said that there wasn't forced entry.
Right, and I keep looking at these over and over in the video as we're talking, trying to glean more information. I mean, I'm so glad they were able to get these because I just can't believe that it will be long to figure out who this person is. I can't imagine. It's just like when we did stories over the years on bank robberies, for example. And, you'd see this funny surveillance video and you'd think, well, I don't know who that person is, but somebody does, right? Somebody knows
Right.
that outfit. Somebody knows that body type. Somebody knows their mannerisms.
Or somebody knows someone who they haven't seen in 10 days. Like,
Right.
that's what the FBI was saying, like, okay, think about maybe someone that was supposed to come to work, but they haven't been in work, or a
Sure.
relative that that hasn't been in
Sure.
touch in 12 days. Like, someone is missing from someone else's communication, you
And
know?
and where are they? And obviously just the fact that this was a single person operation is really bizarre that you wouldn't have
Unless
2
there's someone
people.
at a back door or anything, like, we just don't know that, right?
Right, but I mean, just the logistics of getting somebody out of the house and, it just seems like you would want more than one person. This is a story that a couple days ago, I would have said this isn't gonna end well, but right now, I'm just up in the air about what the situation is, right? I mean, we
Yeah, I
just don't
mean, for
know.
all we know, Nancy and this person or persons could be in Mexico. I mean, given the time and how the proximity to
Yeah.
the border when she was last seen and then when she was reported missing, you can get pretty far in 8 hours.
Yeah, or in a hotel room somewhere, it's a big country. I mean, it's really, really hard to tell. And let's hope that's the situation, right? Let's hope that she is alive, that somebody is holding her, and that somebody's going to know something, because the manner in which this was done seems unprofessional. So I've got to believe that they didn't do this. They didn't do everything well, right? They didn't do everything well. The ability to hide in this country is pretty hard
Right.
with cameras, and all eyes are on this story. I mean, there is nobody that's not looking for Nancy Guthrie, and I can't imagine anybody who saw anything who wouldn't want to report it.
Yeah. And so as we wrap up again, I mean, this is if you've heard of anything or you've seen anything, 1-800 call FBI obviously is your best bet. And I think that this sets this investigation into a massive acceleration mode. And
Mhm,
I
I
think
agree.
there could be an update today or tomorrow. I think we're going to have more information. That's just my 2 cents.
I agree. I agree. Okay, thanks, Chelsea. Thanks for
Uh,
listening.